there is no harm in protecting yourself and protecting your livelihood and protecting your well-being, whether that's mental, physical, emotional, spiritual. You need to put yourself first in those situations so that you can be the best version of yourself for whatever team or leadership you're serving.
Hey everyone, it's Amy Lynn Durham, and you're listening to Create Magic at Work. Create Magic at Work is on a mission to equip senior leaders with tools they need to be a true quantum leader and actually understand what that means. Improve employee engagement, retain top talent, and transform your workplace culture to have less drama and stress. So let's start making magic. Hey everyone. Welcome back to Create Magic at Work. So excited to be in the studio today with Kaitlyn Rios. Let me tell you about Kaitlyn before we get into this conversation I'm dying to talk about with her. Kaitlyn is a doctor of physical therapy and a board-certified wound specialist. Her physical therapy career has been anything but typical and has led her to pursue many niche and diverse leadership opportunities. Currently, she works as a VP of clinical business development for a rapidly growing national wound product manufacturer. In her spare time, Kaitlyn seeks to give back to her community via serving at her church and furthering the development of her nonprofit organization, Faced with Grace. Faced with Grace offers motivational mentorship to women navigating the challenges of workplace toxicity. In her spare time, she enjoys spending time with her family, recreational and professional writing, fun, creating ceramic pottery, love it, and going to concerts. Me too. Kaitlyn lives life always striving to honor her core values of integrity, authenticity, gratitude, adaptability, and humility. Kaitlyn, welcome to Create Magic at Work.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm really glad you're here. And we kind of connected through the podcasting world from Andrew, who's the host of Let's Be Diverse. Love him. I was a guest on his show. So shout out to the Let's Be Diverse podcast. And we connected through your nonprofit, Faced with Grace. We were really started talking about that, what inspired you to start that. And one of the things, correct me if I'm wrong, one of the things that inspired you to start Faced with Grace was helping people spot red flags of a toxic workplace. I just want to dive right into it because I really am excited to talk about it. What inspired you to start Faced with Grace? Tell us a little bit about the road that led you there.
Yeah, so I like to throw out a trigger warning because this was a little bit of a battle with mental health for me. So for your listeners that may be triggered by that, I just wanted to supersede this conversation with that. But back in 2018-ish, I was working in an organization where I was a mid-level manager caught in the middle of 3 different companies. I was working in a hospital. That hospital had hired in 2 different contract groups to work with them to run a clinic. I was leading that clinic. And so, as you can imagine, pleasing 3 different organizational entities is a very hard thing to do and, quite frankly, impossible. And just constantly being in the midst of that and feeling like I was always letting somebody down, I got to a very low point in my mental health, my physical health, everything. And there was a day that I was driving to work where I had this split second moment where I really felt like running my car off the overpass would be an easier solution than arriving at work. And that's so deep and dark. And I don't even feel like in that moment I knew the gravity of that situation. But I call my organization Faced with Grace because in that moment, which felt like it lasted an eternity, looking back, I looked up in the mirror and the rearview mirror and saw my infant riding in the back seat with me. We were on our way to her daycare to drop her off before I got to work. And it was literally like Jesus was sitting in my back seat just saying, girl, you are not done here. Let's keep going. And it was just like this moment that I look back on and has propelled me forward to build something beautiful out of this broken system that I was a part of. And, I really just want to take my experiences and even after I left that place, I was still experiencing toxicity in the workplace, and all these red flags kept coming up, and it's just like, I cannot be alone in this. Like, this can't just be me. Like, I took a long, hard look at myself and made sure I wasn't the root cause of the problem, and I consistently saw that I wasn't, and, I just thought, this has gotta be a bigger issue that more than me just faces throughout their careers, and I want women to feel like they have an ally when they're walking through these situations, and they have somebody they can lock arms with that can offer experiential wisdom and mentorship and guide them through those situations in a healthy and positive way versus letting happen what happened to me. I was wallowing in the negativity of it all, and I couldn't get myself out of it until that sort of rock bottom moment. And I don't want people to have to get to that place. We need to do a better job of coaching people and teaching them what it is that they should be able to recognize as good or bad in a workplace and know what's acceptable and what's not, and ways that they can kind of be good leaders themselves to help change those things.
Well, first off, thank you so much for sharing your story. Very vulnerable, very courageous. And I just want to amplify how you turned that moment into this beautiful place for people to get support with Faced with Grace. And I think that's incredible.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to pause because that was really powerful, and I'm really honored that you're here sharing that on the podcast with the Create Magic at Work community. Part of spiritual intelligence is there's a few skills in the framework that we use with leaders in the workplace, and it's a faith neutral system. But if you believe in a higher power, you don't have to. And one of the skills is seeking guidance from a higher power, if you believe in it, or higher self, you can say as well. And the moment that you were describing in your car, I was like, oh my gosh, you had this moment of seeking guidance from higher power, this experience of something bigger than yourself, a deeper sense of meaning in life. And it's just so in line with sort of the themes that we talk about here on the show. So I really appreciate you sharing that. If you were going along and feeling that way in your work, do you feel like they were subtle signs that you didn't see? Like, do you feel like it was like this low grade kind of gradual thing that occurred where all of a sudden you were like, oh my gosh, how did I get here? And so on that note, how do we spot these subtle things that are sort of piling up when we're not realizing it throughout the process, and then all of a sudden we're like, "Oh my gosh, how did I get here? And I didn't see this."
Yes, to answer your question, is it was 100% like the slow build, right? It's a slow burn to get to that place, I think. And for me, I think a lot of the issue was my own ignorance. I was ignoring my gut, my conscience, my values, my physical health. Had I been paying attention to all of that all along and known that those things were not lying to me, right? Like, I didn't need to shove those things down and ignore them. I think I would have been a lot better off. I was young in my career. I was thinking, oh, this is just how leadership goes. I got to tough it out and I got to suck it up and be stronger and be tougher and overcome. And, so much of the little slow signs that I saw along the way were it was like micromanaging emails. It was backhanded comments in meetings. It was just asking for unrealistic performance on a day-to-day basis. Like, my productivity expectation was ridiculous. And, I was literally, as a salaried manager, overseeing hourly employees. In order to salvage the department's productivity, I would absorb all of their work every day, anything they couldn't get to, all on me. And I'd take it home and I'd spend weekends doing it. And it was awful and just so unsustainable. And I just thought, like, that's how it was supposed to be. No one ever said, Kaitlyn, wake up. This is not how you can live life for the rest of your life as a leader. Like, this is not going to end well. No one ever grabbed me by the face and told me that. And I think that's a big part of what Face with Grace can do for people is just help them open their eyes to the things that are right in front of them. Some of the other things that I was blatantly ignoring was my anxiety that was undiagnosed at the time. It was my weight. I had lost a significant amount of weight, and this is right after having a baby. So I'm thinking, "Oh, cool, I'm getting my pre-baby body back." But no, this was like a whole different ballgame. I write in my book that my extra small scrubs were literally hanging off of me, and it was just ridiculous. Like I was tiny. I wasn't taking care of myself, and I was always the last priority. Like work came first, my family was second, and me, if I got to me, great. If I didn't, there's another day, you know. It was not good. So I think that the subtleties at work and the way that I experienced toxicity were very subtle. It was very slow. It was like a kind of a slow chipping away of my spirit. But then the things that I should have been paying attention to were very blatant and very in my face and should have been easily recognized. But I just didn't know to look at the time.
I think sharing your story is super helpful. I think it's a call for everyone listening to pause and sort of take an inventory of where we are, what it feels like. Are we looking for green flags? Do we know what the green flags look like? Do we know what the glimmers look like? Or are we in this moment of, I'm feeling pretty fatigued and I have this things, whatever it is, just taking an inventory of kind of where you are because we get up and go every day, a lot of us in the workplace. And it's a real call to pause. I was gonna say cause to pause, either one. Yeah, it's a call to pause and take a look at where you're at because, man, I hear so many stories about burnout in the workplace and my hope is that one day it's eradicated. My hope is that we don't even have to have these conversations anymore. There's no need for it. And when you talked about the productivity piece, I was like, "Oh, how do we create business where it's not built on constant growth? How do we create business models that aren't built on constant output and doing more than what you did yesterday, doing more than what you did last month? How can we create new systems that support that?" That's where we really need to start innovating in the workspace, in my opinion. So I definitely feel like sometimes when you're in a situation and you're fatigued and your decision making skills might not be the best because of that fatigue, that you might not be able to spot some of these red flags of a toxic workplace. So, could you help the Create Magic at Work community identify what those might be?
Sure. Sometimes red flags are not blatant, right? In some of the most toxic workplaces I've worked in, they were more based on feelings than they were things you could witness or observe. And so I think that that's an important thing to call out just before we dive into the things that I just regularly call out as red flags. Sometimes it's truly just a feeling that you get, that gut feeling that like something is off here. But in terms of kind of the more observable traits or things that you might witness in a toxic workplace, I think some of them are going to be, unclear roles, shifting expectations, lack of communication is a huge one, micromanagement, that constant surveillance and just like hovering. Sometimes it's like passive aggressive behaviors or manipulative behaviors. Sometimes that happens very outwardly, like in the middle of a team meeting with all your peers around you, and it's very obvious. Sometimes it's woven into the undertone of an email, right? And we have to kind of read between the lines there. Or maybe it's a sideways glance given in the hallway. I mean, it could be a number of different things when it comes to that. Some other things are, different cliques and inclusion groups or exclusion groups within an organization. You might see high turnover or burnout. Maybe you don't feel like there's a safe place to raise your voice and speak up or advocate for yourself if you are feeling some of these things. And then just generally speaking, I think that a lot of times when we are feeling like we are caught in a toxic environment, there's just a lot of lack of alignment with values, there may be ethical red flags, and maybe the values and vision and mission that's posted on the wall in the break room doesn't align with the way leadership is leading. So it's a long list. We can dive into any of that, but those are a lot of the things that I coach on.
Yeah. I'm curious how that compares to green flags. Because I'm coming off of a recent airing of a podcast conversation on Create Magic at Work with Dr. Marie Gervais, where we were talking about career trauma, but we were also talking about what are the glimmers, look for the glimmers. And I love that for Create Magic at Work, especially. And I'm wondering what the green flags are, because as you're describing all of this, I'm thinking we are all human. We're all trying to do the best we can, hopefully from the best place. And we're not going to get it right all the time. And if I send an email with a really great intention behind it, but then somebody reads the email with all of their internal framing or their world perspective, maybe they're having a bad day or something happened, and then they're kind of framing the email I sent in a negative tone when that wasn't my intention. How do we all work together without just cutting people off and saying, oh, well, this is a red flag, this is toxic, instead of saying,
Right.
okay, yeah, take it from there.
No, I totally get what you're saying. And I love that you brought that up, because I think that I've definitely worked in workplaces where, I mean, I've even been the toxic leader, right? Like, it's never an intentional thing. But, I think of the analogy of, like, if I spill gallons and gallons of toxic waste into a pond, whether I did it on purpose or whether I did it accidentally, it's still a toxic pond, right? And so I think that by communicating effectively is where we overcome that. Because if you send that email that has some sort of subliminal message that somebody received that you were not intending, the only way we really overcome that is by that person feeling safe enough and seen enough to raise a hand or send an email back and say, I picked up on this vibe here. Is that what you meant or not? Right? Like, let's get the clarity first and just be curious. Or, having you be the type of leader that has opened your door to that, right? Made it seem like, hey, I want you to come back to me with your feelings and your thoughts and your perspectives on things whenever I send out maybe an email or there's a workplace communication that goes out. So I think it's the willingness of somebody to raise a flag, but it's also the openness of the leader to create that environment in the first place.
Yeah. So green flag would be, I feel safe enough to ask the person that sent this email what their tone meant, or what you get clarification on the intention behind this. And then if there's a conversation where we can come to an understanding and see each other as imperfect humans just trying to get something done, and we can move forward, that would probably, to me anyway, be a green flag. Hey everyone, Amy here. Let's talk about work realities for a second. Whether you're dealing with a tough boss, struggling with team miscommunication, feeling stuck in decision making, let's be real, work drama exists and it's exhausting, but it doesn't have to be this way. At Create Magic at Work, we help leaders like you cut through the chaos, build next level communication skills, and make better, faster decisions without the stress spiral. Whether you're leading a team or just trying to keep your sanity at work, we've got your back. We coach executives and teams like yours to develop interpersonal savvy, drive engagement, and bring your vision and purpose to life so work actually feels energizing again. Imagine that. More engagement, more productivity, less drama. Our executive coaching team has been in your shoes. We've led teams, navigated workplace challenges, and know what it takes to help you succeed and achieve your goals. Real experience, real talk, and real results. If you're thinking, yes, Amy, we need this at my work, then let's talk. Click the link in the show notes and let us help you and your teams become a high-performing, engaged, and productive force of clarity and calm. I'll see you in the Zoom room. Let's throw the stress and drama out the window. Click on the link in the show notes. You and I had a conversation privately a while back about women in the workplace and what skills they might consider building as if they are climbing to the top, if they're choosing to work in a hierarchical system and be a leader at the quote unquote top. What are your thoughts on some of the skills that you would love for them to have or to skill build in?
I think that starts with us setting healthy boundaries and knowing what our boundaries even are, right? I didn't know that at the time. I think that we as leaders or we as just employees, right? I think anyone, no matter what role you're in, can do these things and should do these things, whether you're climbing a ladder or not. Setting those healthy boundaries is paramount. You have to be able to say, "This is too much for me. I've reached my max," or "I'm feeling like this added thing might overwhelm me. Let me give it a try for a week and come back to you and let you know if it's as overwhelming as I think it might be." Or, whatever the task is, give it an appropriate amount of time to try it out and let your leader know that this might feel like it's going to be more than I can handle, and then see where they go from there, because I think that will tell you a lot about the type of organization you're in as well. It's like, how do they receive that feedback, right? Are they going to say, "Well, sorry, that's what your job is. You got to do it no matter what. Sorry, get over it." Or are they going to be receptive to that conversation and have a healthy space for you to express yourself? The second thing that I think every human, no matter whether you're in the workplace or not, should get clear on is your values. Literally write down your values. And that's why I put it in my bio anytime I come on as a guest, because I think it's so critical that we put that at the forefront of everything we do. If I am in a workplace that is not honoring my values, or I am being asked to do work that does not honor or align with my values, that's a red flag. And, it might not be the type of thing that you can always just like, "Oh, well, it doesn't align with my values. I'm not going to do it." It's a call to notice it. It's a call to pause, like you said, and ask yourself, is this something that I stand for? Is this work that I am called to do? Is it part of my purpose? Does it align with who I am as a human? And if not, then I think it's time to look in the mirror, right? And then this is kind of the third skill I would recommend to develop is the ability to self-reflect, to monitor your inner dialogue. Like, what are you telling yourself when you're in these situations? Are you saying, "Suck it up, Kaitlyn, you can do this, get over it, grow up," whatever it is? Or are you saying, "Hold the phone. This is not a healthy place for me to be in. What do I need to do to stand up for myself, stand up for my values, create safety for my team that I might be leading, or ask for safety of my leadership?" And I think that, by doing those three things, so we're creating boundaries by being able to say no in the first place, or hold the phone. Let's pause and evaluate its values and knowing who you are, what you stand for. And then the third one is, what did I just say? The third one was, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, the self awareness, the self awareness.
The third is the self-awareness and having that ability to look inside yourself and ask those hard questions and just be honest with yourself. And if consistently you're not aligning on those things and you're not feeling like those things are honored, that's when I think it's time to make big bold decisions, right? I think to your point earlier, right? Any workplace can give you subtle signs that there might be some toxic undertones. I think that's a lot of times very unintentional by leaders. I think that that's just human nature, to your point earlier. But if it's something that's consistently happening over and over again, months on end, years on end, and you've just been enduring the workplace, that's a problem. We should have to endure the place that we spend more hours in than our homes with our families, right? Like, it should be an enjoyable place to some degree. You should be able to get some sense of fulfillment out of it or purpose. So, yeah, I think if you're at a place where you're constantly feeling like you've got to question who you are and how you align with a place and it just doesn't feel right, that's when we know.
You're describing a few concepts from spiritual intelligence that a lot of the coaches at Create Magic at Work utilize. One of them is making wise and compassionate decisions for yourself and for others. And one of the things that I do see with dear clients that we work with is your story where you were taking the work home and doing it for others. And with the language I use, I often look at that as having empathy in a space where it shouldn't be, where you're taking on other people's stuff, thinking that you are alleviating the suffering of others rather than operating from a compassionate state where, as a leader, you can recognize the suffering of others and perhaps listen or instill certain systems that can help alleviate that suffering without taking it on yourself. And that goes back to your practice of boundary setting in regards to the values. If anyone's listening and is like, how do I figure out what my values are? I would say reach out to a coach like myself or like Kaitlyn. A lot of us have different values exercises that we can help you create, go through. We use one in particular in the spiritual intelligence framework that helps you stack rank what's most important to you in this season of your life. So you don't have to be married to it forever because our lives change, but it's a nice exercise and it comes from you. You author it yourself. And it's a nice exercise to sort of get in line with like, what's important to me here? Am I living my life in alignment with these? What do I need to change? And that can be tough, but that brings in that self awareness piece where it's like, okay, maybe tomorrow I'll take a micro step to like who I want to be in this movie of my life. And I do want to add, if you are feeling mentally healthy enough to help enact change in the spaces that you're in with your own behavior and your own leadership, I think that's really important to stay in these spaces because a lot of us, there's a lot of entrepreneurs, there's a lot of people in the space that talk about how they quote unquote left corporate, right? And I have said that a bunch of times, but I'm still working with people in the workplace. I have a business. I don't necessarily know if I left corporate. I think that I'm just re-inject now that I'm thinking, thinking about it, I kind of want to stop saying that because I'm just re-injecting myself back into the workplace from a different point of view. And I'm so grateful that I've been afforded that ability to do that. So what I'm getting at with you and what I want to hear from you is when is the time to leave? And how do you leave without burning a bridge? Either burning yourself out or burning the bridge at your company because I've seen some people burn out and they like light the fire. They're burnt out and then they go out with a bang, right? Like they act out, right? They act out. I've seen lots of different things happen when people are frustrated at work. I mean, that's a whole other podcast episode that might actually be fun to go down. But anyways, we're talking to somebody that might feel like it might be time to go. How do they do it without burning themselves out or burning the bridge with a place they've worked for quite some time?
Absolutely. That's such a good question. And, I think it's an important call out that for some people, a toxic workplace doesn't mean you should just run away, right? I love that you mentioned that sometimes we've got to stay and be change agents and be the leaders within that can be a guiding light to other people that need it. Some organizations, I think, are more receptive to that than others. We use this framework whenever I'm helping clients go through navigating a toxic workplace, and it's called open eyes, open minds, open hearts. And so we first open their eyes to all of the things happening right in front of them, right? Like maybe it's, have you lost weight? Does anyone ask you that question? Have you stopped eating? Have you stopped taking care of yourself? Are you feeling micromanaged? All those red flags that we talked about. We get very concrete with those and very objective. We don't ignore the subjectivity of it, but we call out the facts. Once you have all those facts laid at your feet, then let's open our minds about it and let's think about, okay, are these things that I can impact? Can I affect change around these issues? Or are these issues part of a larger systemic problem? And if so, is that system too far gone for me to affect change? Or is that system maybe receptive? Maybe can I find a leader who would listen, who could maybe go to the people at the top and help me to start kind of breaking this down and helping people to feel safer, more seen, more appreciated, fill in the blank. And then it's open hearts. It's like, what are the possibilities beyond this, right? What does the future look like for you? What do you want for yourself in the future? Is it staying here? Is it being that leader and being so appreciated that you made the organization a healthier place to be? Or are you to a place where your health is so impacted that you're not going to be any good for anybody in this space anymore? Because like in my situation, I was too far gone. I was already at burnout. I was at rock bottom. It was no longer sustainable for me to stay there, and I knew that if I continued on that path, it was just going to be detrimental to myself and subsequently my teams, right? So I think that asking ourselves those questions and just kind of following that three-step process really helps to create just a little bit of a roadmap for people. But in terms of if you are trying to leave and trying not to burn bridges, I mean, the best thing we can always do is approach it professionally, right? If I did respect my boss, if I did have a healthy workplace, are these behaviors I would exhibit in those instances? Because even though you have maybe an unhealthy leader in your midst, or maybe everyone's just drama all the time and that's what's made it toxic, that doesn't mean that you have to stoop to that place, right? There's so much to be said about keeping your cool when everyone else is not. And again, sort of demonstrating leadership when everyone is not, and showing people that you can navigate these things with grace and with poise and with respect for yourself and all the people around you, because they're going through it too, most likely. And so I think that exiting, it doesn't have to be an ugly process. It can start with a conversation. If you feel like you can have a safe conversation about, hey, I'm gonna start looking because I've sensed that this maybe isn't the place I'm meant to be long term. Maybe it needs to be more quiet than that because you feel there might be repercussions for escalating an issue. And that's okay too. Go look for a job. Like, I don't know. I've gotten to a place in my career where unfortunately I don't ever stop looking. I never stop. I never get too comfortable because I don't trust. Honestly, I just don't. I've completely lost that for the corporate world. But there is no harm in protecting yourself and protecting your livelihood and protecting your well-being, whether that's mental, physical, emotional, spiritual. You need to put yourself first in those situations so that you can be the best version of yourself for whatever team or leadership you're serving.
Yeah, I think that's an important point that you share about. So if you've hit a point where you're like, this workplace is toxic, I can't sustain this anymore here, leaving in a healthy way, in a professional way, in a place where you're operating from your own inner wisdom and compassion as you exit that part of your career journey is setting the tone on what healthy can look like. And so that's an important piece there. And also on the other thing that we were talking about for women that do get to that number one spot, I've said this before, I'm going to say it again, do something different. Don't do things the same way they've been done before. If you are in that space, make some changes that people can see because you're there. Don't do things the way they've been done before. What could look differently for you in that space? I'm going to pull a card for everyone listening. I did an entire summer solo series on people's relationship to change and also to time. We have a framework we use at Create Magic at Work called the archetypes of change. And you can see what your strongest archetype is it can help you kind of see how other people that you work with might be responding to change differently so you can communicate with each other better and work better together. But the entire summer, I never pulled a journal prompt card from the Create Magic at Work journal prompt card deck. And I had a few people reaching out like, I love your card pulls. I love hearing what the card is for the week. And I'm like, oh, that's amazing. I didn't know if I should bring that back or not. So we're going to do that today for everyone listening, I'm going to pull a card and get a message for everyone. And this one already is like totally sticking out. Oh, I love it. I haven't. So we got partnership.
Oh, perfect.
I love it, love it, love it. I don't think I've seen this in such a long time. So the theme of the card is partnership, and it's two people kind of cheersing a couple of cups. And the inspirational message on the card is the people in my, oh, this is so good. So good for what we were talking about. The message on the card is the people in my network are supportive and genuine. The people in my network are supportive and genuine. So if you're listening right now, this message is meant for you. Repeat that to yourself. The people in my network are supportive and genuine. And I love this because I was talking about looking for the glimmers, looking for the green flags, and look for the people in your network that are supportive and genuine. Okay, there's 2 questions on the card, Kaitlyn. I'm going to give you one to answer to close out our conversation. And I think the one for you, because I think it's so in line with your story and so in line with Faced with Grace and why you started it, or one of the reasons why you started it. The question is, what are some ways people can create a give and take balance with their work? Give us like one tip today on if we feel like we don't have a good give and take balance. Mostly, I'm assuming if people feel fatigued, they feel like they're overgiving. So one tip on how we can create some give and take balance with our work.
I think the first thing that comes to mind is learning to delegate, right? But when you delegate something, you can always ask that person, what can I do for you? Right? Like, I'm going to give you this because I know you're really good at it. This is your strong suit. This is what you excel at. This makes you tick. But what can I take off your plate to help you? And so you do create that give and take while somewhat relieving that burden if you are over giving all the time. You just got to, weigh the things that they give back to you, because then that could become overwhelming too.
Yeah, I see that a lot with newer leaders, learning how to delegate. And also one of the coaches at Create Magic at Work, Sean Conboy, I just saw this a few weeks ago and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm sure we've all heard this before, but I had forgotten. We all need these reminders. If you can reframe the word delegate to empower, maybe it helps you feel like you're not giving your work to others, but you're also empowering them to learn new things, to grow in their career. And so if you frame it in that way, you can be a lot more intentional about what you're delegating, because you're looking at it from an empowerment lens. So we will close out on that note. Kaitlyn, please tell us how we can get involved with Faced with Grace, and where can people connect with you if they want to learn more?
Absolutely. Thank you. So Face with Grace, you can find us online at www.facewithgrace.org. And then you can reach out to me directly at connect@facewithgrace.org.
Kaitlyn, thank you so much for sending some magic to everyone today. Really some nice, thought-provoking concepts that we talked about, and I really appreciate you. Thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you. It's great to be here today.
I want to thank each and every one of you for coming back every week to listen to a new episode of Create Magic at Work, and really helping to support and advocate for healthy leaders, workplaces, and lives for all of us. If you want any information on how to connect with me, click on the link in the show notes. You'll get access to all of the social media links for Create Magic at Work. Stay following along for more amazing episodes where we help you improve productivity and profitability in the workplace and decrease stress. Sending magic to everyone, and see you next time.